And that was Anthony Fowler from Tilt Renewables. David, some really interesting stuff there, actually, just about sort of developments, policy requirements, some very frank assessments about the cost of technologies and cost of doing things. Battery costs come down even more, it seems, from Anthony's eyes, but the cost of laying a concrete slab shot up. And I guess that's part of the sort of the challenge of Australia and indeed the world as they're sort of building out this energy transition, is that some of the individual technology costs have come down, but the costs of actually doing things, and we've seen this with transmission lines, are going up.
Yes, costs are going up. And Anthony's point about the ultimate electricity price, I mean, it is going to be a fail, the thing, or received with ill grace, if we can't demonstrate to consumers that it's going to be at a reasonable price. Now, it's true that ultimately consumers don't see the hidden shadow cost of carbon. All they see is an electricity price. And it's also true that households will have to deal with less electricity going through the grid, as a result of, say, the home battery plan, which now rolls out. And this is not necessarily going to result in lower consumer costs. So it remains a long journey, but at the end of the day, we can sit around and talk about it, or we can start walking.
Well, that's right. Yes. Yeah. And look, in a way, look, it's going to be really interesting to see, I think, what's going to be happening policy-wise this year. Some really landmark events with Tim Nelson coming up with his review later on this year. I think it's going to be fascinating to see what, if any, adjustments are made to the integrated system plan. Excellent document, but things have changed in terms of costs and the cost of building things. So that's going to be a fascinating time, and we might hear a little less noise from the other side, although one does wonder, it's still early days yet, but who emerges as the leadership of the opposition?
Well, it's worth talking about, like the point that's been made by a number of what I regard as the better journalists. So this would be the Phil Coorey, who's a friend to the Liberal Party, but a very good analyst. That, essentially the Conservatives and the Nationals are a bigger part of what's left. And people like, who's that, what's his name, Colin Boyce or something like that? I mean, they're never going to change their attitude. They really aren't. And so we're always going to have what I would ask really from the LNP is that the next time they come up with an electricity policy, they go and talk to the people in the electricity industry first and understand what the industry thinks would be a good way of going, instead of just pulling something out of the ideological air that takes no account of the actual reality and the situation that big business has to actually deal with. And when we come to things like green iron ore and stuff, in my opinion, it's far better to work in partnership with big business on this. These are the guys that have to spend billions of dollars one way or another. And unless you want to nationalise the whole thing, and, the National Party's great for nationalisation. Hey, it's part of the name.
Yes, well, look, I mean, and it's not just, it's the LNP. I'm not too sure whether it's just the LNP. It's also the Liberal Party. I mean, the rump of that, they've lost a whole bunch of moderates. It's Tim Wilson has got back into Goldstein. Phil Coorey describes him as a moderate, but I would point out that he's the former policy director for the Institute of Public Affairs, so I'm not too sure what qualifies you as a moderate anymore.
Well, Giles, this is the thing that, again, if you read into this stuff, and we're amateur and we shouldn't take people's time up, but there are two dimensions to the left and right, at least two dimensions. One is economics, and the other one is on social issues. And the theory I was reading recently suggests that your first vote counts more than that is a better predictor of how you're going to vote than anything else. And your first vote is often driven by young people by looking at socially progressive issues, not the economic divide, but on the social side of things. That's where it's won and lost on average through someone's life. Anyway.
Yeah, interesting. Oh, well. Anyway, there we go. We shall see the full cabinet announced, I guess, probably over the weekend, and sort of confirmation next week. Tuesday. Well, that's the swearing in. I would imagine it's going to be announced before then. Anyway, we'll probably get an answer on the cabinet before we get an answer about the identity of your teddy bear that's lying on top of your microphone stand. But
it's a shame I can't show you all the other adornments here that remind me of my grandkids and the future generations, and the reason besides sounding off that we're here, Giles.
Well, that's an important thing, and I guess that actually does when we think about the future generations. I mean, it does really like what's we come down to. I mean, just sort of steady as she goes is not good enough. So if that's the result of the election, then that's going to be a disappointment. So the challenge is really down there for the Labor Party. They've got no political excuse now not to go really hard on climate and energy, and I really hope that they do so.
It's the cricket approach. It's a 50-over cricket match, which has been the model for ages. We've been going through the opening stage. We're now getting through to relaxing the field and where you start to build. But you still won't see the full speed until we get closer to 2028. And with the best will in the world, coordinating the 7 gigawatts, $20 billion of investment, multiple parties, transmission being built at the same time into the Irana zone, which we discussed on the podcast, that you just cannot rush that. It's like D-Day. You just can't rush it.
No, you can't rush it, but you can be more ambitious with policy, I think, and targets. And I think it's time to sort of accelerate. And I'm going to be very sorry that there's going to be a few of those voices missing, which are not going to sort of hold them to account. Anyway, stronger targets, pedal faster. And I understand the complexity of it all, but we need to get there for the sake of the owners, or the future owners of your teddy bear.
And for our future podcast.
Podcast. Thank you very much, David. Thanks to Anthony Fowler from Tilt Renewables for joining us. Thanks for all the people out there. Apologies for the people watching this on the screen for the frightening sort of real-life view of David and myself. We'll be back. Thanks, of course, to our sponsors, Evergen and Pylon. And we'll be back with another episode of the Energy Insiders podcast next week. Bye for now.